Hey guys, Tom here and welcome to my WWE Monday Night Raw review for the 22nd of August 2016. It was the night after SummerSlam. What did you guys think of this week's Monday Night Raw? It was okay, it was decent. It wasn't the most amazing Monday Night Raw of all time, but it wasn't the worst Raw of all time. It was just your bog standard Raw, really. There were highlights, there were low points. Let's have a little talk about this week's Monday Night Raw. So I was pretty outspoken about the fact that SummerSlam was freaking 6 hours long. So I wasn't too keen about staying up until 4 AM to watch this week's Raw, which was another 3 hours of wrestling on top of the 3 hours of wrestling I'd watched on Saturday for NXT. So I missed it and I ended up watching it in the morning, and I was kind of glad I did because it wasn't worthy of staying up until 4 AM. It was still pretty decent, but it was not top. It was not top of the charts Monday Night Raw. It was just a solid bog standard show. Now, it was pretty upsetting to tune into this week's Monday Night Raw and find out that sadly Finn Balor had to relinquish the title. I kind of have to laugh about it because you can't really write this stuff. Like, how freaking disappointing is that? We waited so long for this guy to finally come up to the main roster. He has one of the greatest debuts ever. In 4 weeks, he wins the Universal Championship, and then he gets injured. Like, how fucking depressing is that? I mean, I had this very same feeling when Seth Rollins got injured, and we didn't see him for like, what, 6 to 9 months. And now we're going to have to face the very same situation with Finn Balor, a guy who has literally just established his character. I mean, wow, that is so freaking upsetting. And we had to tune into Monday Night Raw and witness him relinquishing the title. I mean, what a change of events, and not a very good change of events. How shitty is that? But there's only really one positive from this, is that we got 4 epic matches on this week's Raw. We definitely did get 4 epic matches, and I enjoyed every single one of them. And I definitely do think the fact that Finn Balor is now not the Universal Champion, then it has actually opened the door for some people like Kevin Owens, who could potentially become the Universal Champion on next week's Monday Night Raw. And next week's Raw, I definitely will be staying up until 4 AM because that is going to be a huge, huge show. We are going to determine a new Universal Champion. So let's start off by talking about that opening segment. Finn Balor relinquishing the title. That was really upsetting. He gets more confident as the weeks go by. A pretty nice promo from Finn Balor to round up his win on SummerSlam and walking out and relinquishing the title. I really liked how everybody came out to the ring and said why they should be the Universal Champion. And they set up these 4 epic matches to determine a winner next week on Raw. Now, it did, to me, kind of feel like it really was last minute. I mean, they only decided, I think it was after the second match, that what was going to happen with the winners of these matches. They were like, oh, by the way, these 2 winners who have already won, and the next 2 winners in the next 2 matches will all face off in a fatal 4-way match next week for the Universal Championship. It really was last minute stuff, and it just didn't really feel like they knew what they were doing, but it has opened doors for people like Kevin Owens. So let's have a talk about the first match of the night. Seth Rollins taking on Sami Zayn. This match was the best match of the night. This match was the best match out of all 4 matches to qualify for that fatal 4-way match next week. Holy shit, potentially the 2 best wrestlers on the Monday Night Raw roster going at it to determine a place in that fatal 4-way match. This match was really, really good. It got plenty of time. The crowd absolutely loved it. It was back and forth. They clearly have a lot of chemistry. Love this match. I want to see this match again. It was a shame that Sami Zayn only got on the pre-show at SummerSlam because he deserves way better, because this match against Seth Rollins tore the house down. It was brilliant. I loved how Seth Rollins worked on the ankle of Sami Zayn the whole way through the match. A nice little story intertwined in this match, but Seth Rollins of course gets the win, which we kind of knew. We kind of knew that Seth Rollins was going to beat Sami Zayn, but it didn't matter because it still made for a really awesome match. We then got the next match, which was Kevin Owens taking on Neville, which once again was another epic match to get your place in that fatal 4-way match next week. Kevin Owens taking on Neville. You could tell these guys knew each other so well. Neville has gone away, he's improved his character, he's improved his confidence on the microphone, but he gets better every week. This was an awesome match, both from Kevin Owens and Neville. I really like how Kevin Owens has won this match. It's going to be great to see him in a Universal Championship match. Finally, a World Championship match for Kevin Owens, which is so well overdue. Neville, he comes up with some crazy acrobatic stuff in every single match he has. He was great at SummerSlam. He was great tonight on Monday Night Raw. I really enjoyed this match between Kevin Owens and Neville. It wasn't as good as the Sami Zayn and Rollins match, but it was very close. It was a very perfect match. The next match we got was Big Cass taking on Rusev, which definitely dropped in the excitement compared to the other two matches we got previous. It was an okay match, but I just really hated the ending. Now, I really was excited that Big Cass won this match and is in the Fatal 4-Way match next week. It was very predictable that Big Cass was going to win. The fact that two heels had already made their way into that Fatal 4-Way match, it was pretty obvious that two baby faces were going to make their way into that match as well. So I knew Big Cass was going to win, and I knew Roman Reigns was going to win. They should have mixed it up. They should have had a heel win in the first match, a babyface win in the next match, a heel win in the next match, and a babyface win in the next match. But if the fact that they'd already had two heels win made it a little bit too obvious that Big Cass and Reigns were going to win their respective matches. But how did Big Cass win? He won when Rusev walked away from the match, which is kind of understandable, but at the same time, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because why would Rusev walk away from potentially getting a Universal Championship match next week? Why would he walk away from that match? This made absolutely no sense. And the fact that Big Cass and Enzo took a pretty surprising loss at SummerSlam, you would have thought that they would have given a big win to both Enzo and Cass on this week's Monday Night Raw, but I mean, he won, but it wasn't really that convincing, was it? But I quite like it. Big Cass in a championship match on next week's Monday Night Raw. It's the new era. People are getting some new opportunities. You've got Kevin Owens and Big Cass in a match next week, which you probably would not have thought that would happen. So the main event was Roman Reigns against Chris Jericho. A decent match. It took a very long time to get going, but when it did get going, when Kevin Owens got out there and started distracting Roman Reigns, it did get very intense. There was a huge moment in the match where Chris Jericho got Roman Reigns in the walls of Jericho. That was an awesome moment. The crowd were chanting tap, tap, tap. Insane ending towards this match, but I absolutely hated how it came about. I mean, everybody was loving it. They were into the match. It was intense. You thought Chris Jericho was going to win. Kevin Owens hits Roman Reigns with a super kick. Then he gets hit with a code breaker and he kicks out. He kicks out. Yeah, he kicks out. And then the next minute, he spears Chris Jericho and wins the match. This fucking pissed me off. It pissed me off because one, he kicked out of a super kick and a code breaker, and then he just gets up as if it was nothing and wins with the spear. This is the reason people are booing Roman Reigns week in and week out, because he's been booked like a Superman, like an unstoppable force for weeks and months and almost years. People are sick of it. You can see through it. It's John Cena 2.0 quite easily. You can see that, and this was just ridiculous. This was beyond what we have seen before. Kicking out of a super kick, kicking out of a code breaker, then getting up, hitting a spear, and winning the match. It was predictable, it was dull. This is not going to get Roman Reigns over because it is obvious, it is boring. It's what we've seen for months and months, even past WrestleMania. This was pathetic. This really was pathetic. And the sad thing is, you kind of had a thought in the back of your mind that this was going to happen. And why couldn't they switch things up? I mean, I still, deep down, feel like Seth Rollins is going to win that Universal Championship next week on Monday Night Raw. So why did they have to have Roman Reigns in that Fatal 4-Way match on next week's Raw? Surely they're not going to put the title on Roman Reigns. Surely not. That's not what they're going to do. So why does he have to be in this match anyway? Why couldn't they have Chris Jericho win? Or why couldn't they have somebody else on the roster win to mix things up? They could have had Neville get into that final. They could have had Sami Zayn get into that final. Darren Young, somebody that we haven't seen before. It just Feels like we've already been here before, seen Roman bring out the Superman once again and win every single match. Okay, so there are a few other things to talk about on this week's Monday Night Raw besides those awesome Universal Championship matches, if we ignore the ending to the Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho match. Now, we had Big E return to Monday Night Raw alongside the New Day to confront the club. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of this whole segment before the match. I feel like the New Day are slowly dwindling. It's not as impressive as it used to be. It's getting a little bit repetitive, a little bit dull. They're kind of relying on the same old jokes over and over again. And this whole segment, this whole match just felt like filler. They were filling the 3 hours and it really did not add anything more to the whole club and New Day storyline. I'm not particularly sure now that the club attacked the Dudley Boys after their goodbye segment. Are the club now going to feud with the Dudley Boys and they haven't actually retired? Or are the club just sending a message to the New Day? The fact that Big E won here and pinned Carl Anderson, to me, suggests like the New Day are going to move on to other things and we're not going to have a club and New Day match anymore. But you never know with the WWE. But to me, this match was pretty bad. He didn't really do anything. It was a bit of a waste of a good 10 to 15 minutes on this week's show. I think we're going to have to talk about that Titus O'Neil promo. I mean, in the first 2 lines, he slipped on his words about 3 or 4 times. I felt bad for him, but also at the same time, I kind of hate the person that told him to go out there because you know Titus O'Neil cannot cut a promo. His voice is horrible. It's not all entirely his fault, but why did somebody think it was a good idea for Titus O'Neil to come out to the crowd and cut a promo in the first place? He did get confident and more confident as the promo went on. He didn't slip on any words once he got past like the first few lines, but nobody cared. Nobody cared because nobody cares about Titus O'Neil against Darren Young. We don't care. No, nobody cares. And it actually looks like this feud's going to continue. Titus O'Neil taking on Darren Young, probably at a Clash of Champions. Does anybody care? Do you care? I don't care. Okay, so we actually got Bayley coming to Monday Night Raw. I was pretty disappointed at Battleground when she debuted, and then we didn't see her. And then news came out that she's not actually debuting on the main roster. This was just a one-off thing. But finally, we didn't have to wait long. Bayley is back. She is on the main roster. She debuted tonight on Monday Night Raw. How epic was that? I am freaking pumped for this. This is going to be great. This is what we need. Sasha Banks is gone. We've already got a replacement. This is brilliant. Her match with Dana Brooke was not, it wasn't that great, but I love how Mick Foley introduced Bayley. The crowd knew who it was going to be. They were all chanting Bayley. It was a great moment. Mick Foley loved it. You could tell this was awesome. This is so well overdue. Here we go. Bayley against Dana Brooke. The match was not that great. I mean, Dana Brooke she looks like such a retard stood next to Charlotte. I mean, she plays a horrible character. I don't know whose idea that was, but anyway, Bayley is on the main roster. This is going to be great. I don't know, do you guys kind of get the sense that we've kind of been here and done it before with Charlotte? I mean, I was really happy when she dropped the title to Sasha Banks, but now, once again, she's got the title, and we've kind of been here, done it before, sort of thing. We also, once again, got Braun Strowman in a jobber match. Now, we've got to talk about this. The guy he was facing was Johnny Knockout. Now, there was news a few weeks ago that WWE are implementing LGBT into their programming, and the guy said in his promo the reason he was in this match was because he likes big, sweaty men. I mean, that was funny. Yeah, that was, I laughed my head off. I thought that was hilarious because it came out of absolutely nowhere. But I have 2 things to say about this. One, I do not care about the sexuality of my wrestlers, so I'm definitely not for all of this whole LGBT thing. I'm not for it because I have never cared about the sexuality of wrestlers. I don't think you need it. And also, 2, all the other programs that are doing this whole LGBT thing, they do it way over the top. And most of the people in the LGBT community would admit that they dramatize it, and it's just way over the top. And the WWE are probably the worst company in the world to take this situation sensitively. They are not going to do it well. It's going to be embarrassing. This was the sense of what we're going to get in the future. It was funny, but 1, I don't care about the sexuality of wrestlers. I never have. It's not needed. And 2, they're not going to do it well. And most programs that already do it do not do it well either. They do it way over the top. It's not realistic and it's stupid. And I have to be sensitive about this, but yes, it should be discussed. It's absolutely fine about your sexuality, but is it needed in wrestling? I don't think it is. And the WWE are probably the worst company to represent it, and we got a sense of tonight that they are. Because this statement just made all LGBT people look like perverts, which they obviously are not. Also, the last and final thing we have to talk about is the Dudley Boys announcing their retirement. Are they retired? Are they not? The club attacked them. I have no idea. We did not get Bully Ray Dudley, which I wanted, which is pretty disappointing. And out of all of this, it was a great moment, but are they retired? I don't even know, because the club attacked them. And whose idea was this whole Puerto Rico gimmick? It is horrendous. Oh my god, it is so bad. It is like, oh my god, it's cringeworthy. How do they do that gimmick and go out there every single week and perform it? It is so horrendous. Whose idea was this? It is awful. Holy shit. How did it take me so long to realize this? The music's awful, the gimmick's awful, what they're wearing is awful. Come to Puerto Rico. Who gives a shit? Holy shit, it is bad. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am going to give this week's Monday Night Raw a 7 out of 10. It was decent, nothing amazing, nothing horrible, just your bog standard Monday Night Raw. We got 4 pretty awesome Universal Championship qualifying matches, I suppose you could call it. We got a debut of Bayley. We got a pretty awesome moment with the Dudley Boys, but are they even retired? I don't even know. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment your thoughts below. Take care. Spike your hair.